Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lauren. It's been a bit, so I want to kind of dive into that. Now, first, before I dive into my topic of the day, I want to talk about my workshop coming up on the 22nd. That'll be Wednesday the 20th. Let me just double check that there. Wednesday the January 22nd at 7 p.m., which is an hour earlier than I do most of my evening stuff. Kind of sometimes I find 8. I'm gonna try 7 because sometimes I find 8, like if I do it on a day that I've worked a day shift and then I come home and do kind of like a quick change and teach, sometimes it goes really well and sometimes my brain is just tired. So it just depends on what's going on at work, right? So I'm thinking about switching things up a little bit and doing it starting to do things perhaps on days off. Summertime, that's tricky for me just because of the amount of overtime. So I'll probably have to do it while I'm working. But anyway, those are just kind of logistics that I'm working through, but trying something a little bit different, a little bit earlier. That way we also have more time so I can deliver the workshop. And then this one gets you some time with me at the end. We can kind of talk things through, a little bit of coaching. So I'm excited about it. It's an intention setting workshop. I named it Set Your Vibe for 2025. And the more I've been kind of reflecting on it and thinking about like, oh, I really do need to create more content for it because I'm not doing this workshop justice. I haven't been talking about it enough or as widely. I'll get to that in a moment when I'm talking about my main topic for today, but I wanted to take, sorry, a moment to kind of just talk about it a little bit as a different format. Most of my content is written content, right? So it's nice to have some of that kind of like verbal as well. The idea, and as I lean more into like the essence, like what is the vibe for the workshop and the feeling that I want to portray, kind of as a life of its own, is showing others that there's another way other than this like new year, new you, uh, set these big goals and then, quietly quit or just quit behind our own backs very quickly. And because it's not sustainable, I want to have a conversation that is not mainstream and I think needs to be. So one day we'll get there. It's an anti-hustle conversation. It's talking about how instead of like what do you want to do in 2025, it starts with how do you want to feel in 2025 and laying a foundation of how you want to feel as the compass that leads you through the year, and the feeling drives the actions. A lot of the times I think kind of mainstream was setting all the goals and these big things that may not be either sustainable or realistic in the timeline that we decide it needs to be done. We end up either burning ourselves out, or if we don't meet that goal, then we feel like we did something wrong and we blame ourselves. I think it's just not healthy in my opinion and from my own experience. So what I've been really leaning into over the last like couple years, especially the last year, I would say, is really being intentional about how I want to feel in how I'm going about things and letting the feeling like, does this bring me joy, or does this feel nourishing? Is this feeding my soul? Is this supporting my mental health? Is this supporting my physical health and my nervous system? Asking myself these questions and deciding, like laying a foundation of of how I want to feel and what it'll bring me, and then making my decisions on that so that I still have goals, of course, but do the actions I take towards these goals match the description of how I want to feel while I'm taking the action, if that makes sense. Um, I think we lose ourselves in having these external goals, and sometimes I know from experience in the past, when we really want something, sometimes we can take actions that are outside of our own integrity and our own values in order to achieve the goal. And that, at least for me, really didn't end up feeling very good because I ended up I'm thinking about like my network marketing business and just trying to follow the pack and the norm of how things were done because I didn't have any experience in it. And then really having to take a step back, I was forced to. And then during that reflection time, really seeing like, uh, this isn't working for me. It never really did. I really acted outside of my own values, and taking a good hard look at that, and not putting shame on myself, but really deciding going forward, I'm going to do things differently. So taking the wisdom from my own experience and those nuggets and saying, now that I know better, I'm going to do better. And not only leading my life that way in other facets, in all facets, but now showing others that there's a different way. There's a more nourishing and sustainable way. So if you've been thinking about just knowing that there's a different way to do things and wanting to live a life a certain way, but getting caught up in the hustle, getting caught up in the shoulds, um, I'm ready to show you a different way that is just very beautiful. And the other thing is, this isn't necessarily like I say Vibe for 25, but for one, we're doing the workshop in January. So it's not like we were pre-doing it going into 2025 because I made a decision to move it to January. When you're setting the foundation, if you're already feeling burnt out about other stuff, perhaps the beginning of your journey is not about achieving anything. Okay, let me rephrase that. Perhaps what you are moving towards achieving is more balance. Maybe you have big goals, but they're further out. Maybe that's 2026. Maybe 2025 is about resetting or regulating your nervous system, putting practices into place that support the life that you want to lead, creating capacity in your nervous system so that you have expansion. Looking ahead, where do you want to go next? And evaluating the present. Where am I at right now? Because our past actions have always brought us to where we are now. Evaluating that, looking back a little bit, we have to, because we have to see where we've come from, what we can learn from the journey we've taken thus far, and looking at what do I need to let go of from the past that I've been maybe dragging forward with me or carrying, that will allow me to have the space, the capacity, the room to then create where I want to go next. So it's going to be an evaluation. It's going to be getting curious and exploring, going kind of deep, and but such a loving way, not to judge ourselves, but to kind of almost disconnect and look at it from above and just say, okay, we're looking at it from like the bigger picture. Where am I at right now? What do I need to let go of? What is holding me back from going where I need to go? And that's a whole topic on its own. I feel like this workshop is going to I just feel that there's something bigger. I don't know, and I don't want to like spew the words yet because it's incubating right now, but there's something that's developing, ideas that have been floating around in my mind that just haven't quite come together. I don't know if it's a program or what, but something bigger is coming together that will be an extension of this workshop. So if you want in on some magic that's underway, this is the start of it. This will lay the foundation into where we're going to go next. And I'm excited for it all to kind of come together and for me to receive it. But yeah, we're gonna lay the foundation. It's gonna be loving. It's going to be, we're gonna kind of detach and see the bigger picture and just look down on it like from a neutral place and just really kind of evaluate it and say, okay, based on this, this is this, and this is what I need to do, and this is how I want to feel, and this is what this looks like. And then as you go about your life for this year, coming back to these questions of, does this serve me in feeling this way or serving my, nervous system, say if that's an example. So it's really about being cu curious, but then having this foundation that we check in with ourselves before we're leading as we're leading our life and saying, is this serving me? And being able to pick up on when we've kind of lost that a little bit and what that looks like, and then kind of pivoting back on track to, the road, the path that we want to take. So that's kind of, I think I've basically covered it. That's what I'm feeling like I need to say right now about it. Anyway, but it's yeah, so this recording will be on Monday the 13th. So it's next Wednesday, the 22nd. The investment is $33. And yeah, just reach out if you're interested. It's going to be a very beautiful, very nourishing. I think you're gonna come away from it just feeling like, yeah, that's the vibe. And you get to set it yourself in what you need to do for yourself. And it's just going to be a very beautiful 2025. Now, I haven't recorded in a few weeks, and I wanted to kind of, I guess, catch you up a little bit without going into all the details, but it's been I've been in like a typical winter vibe in a lot of ways, and even emotionally it's just felt really dark. The holiday season it was difficult for me this year. Uh Lots of changes navigating, not only missing my loved ones and not being able to have holidays the way they used to be and the way I loved it, with all the togetherness and the more extended family. A lot of my extended family, at least on my dad's side, have passed away. So there's really like, yeah, there's no one left that I'm close with that we can get together. Because my aunt always hosted. So that's not true. I have my cousins and stuff, but in terms of like my dad's like siblings and stuff, yeah, my aunt and uncle are gone, and they were the ones who brought us all together. So it's sad not having some of those things. And also my granny is in a wheelchair now. She's not able to walk, so she can't come to my mom, so we weren't able to have her for Christmas. And it was our first Christmas a couple months after losing Darla, our kitty. So just missing some loved ones around the table or in the vicinity, as because Darla would always kind of be hanging out with us. And that, and then my granny got sick, so she's been in the hospital, running around, like just going back and forth to see her and stuff. And yeah, sometimes we just go through a season that just feels kind of dark, and we can feel aimless. Um, because when it's dark, it's hard to know, like when you think of it figuratively, when you're in the dark, it's hard to know where you're going next, right? Because you don't really see the clear path. And the reason why I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit is the difference now than before is this one didn't last as long. And I think part of that reason is I just fully embraced it and I saw it for what it was. Now that I kind of understand it better, at least from my own perspective, it's just a time to just honor um I think about it in terms of like seasons in nature. Sometimes things are just dark and we're a little bit unsure, but that's the time to just kind of surrender into it and, take care of ourselves. We don't get lost in it, but also not try to fix it. I didn't try to fix it. I just was like, if I'm gonna feel sad for a little while, then that's okay. Maybe so I'm processing something I might not even be aware of. And I think about like, what am I shedding? What am I letting go of through this process and creating room for just in my life. And then eventually the light started to kind of shine again. So I feel like I'm out of the thick darkness of it and kind of starting to move forward and have some more of that spark of life of I feel like there's another word for it, but it's not coming to me. Just that life force energy to start to put into other things. At the same time, I'm still kind of tired coming out of it. So I just as much as I love recording the podcast, I just needed some quiet time to just kind of be and not have to express outwardly. That also extended to not talking about my workshop and other offers. Like I have my inspirational readings, which I do, like intuitive readings. I pre-record them on Zoom and send out a link for those who want them. And I pick an oracle card, like oracle deck that I feel drawn to for that person. I do a spread that's kind of a reflection, kind of the working in conjunction with the workshop, like looking at the past, lessons to learn, and then moving into 2025 and kind of what that is to help support others. And I did a couple back in December before I kind of slipped into the darkness for a bit there. And I'm ready to do some more. So if you need some kind of intuitive support for 2025 or just the season that you're in, those are $55. You can reach out to me if you have any questions about them. But just kind of so taking that time to step aside and just be with what is and know that that's keeping me in integrity because if I were to still be promoting some of these things, for one, I didn't have the capacity to do them. I just wasn't in the right headspace. So that would be outside of my own integrity. So it's just like that's gonna be um shelved for now until I, have the energy and it feels like something good that I want to do. Like if it brings me energy instead of feeling like it would drain my energy because I just didn't have a lot for a bit there. So if you're in kind of a if what I described resonates with you, I invite you to just lean into it and don't make it wrong. We go through all kinds of seasons in our lives, right? So lean into it and what do you need in this moment to lead you through it with more grace and ease. Don't try to fix it because then you'll end up clinging to it, which makes you stay in it longer. How can you surrender what do you need to let go of? And as an extension of that, as I've moved through and feel more light coming in figuratively, this has brought me into a chapter or a season where I guess I'm in a spring because now I have this desire. I'm still kind of like winter spring because I still have a desire to be home or close to home and give giving myself lots of nourishment, sleeping in when I can. Um, sorry, I just need a drink of water. Uh, but part of that, along with the nourishment, I have been feeling a desire, like a soul pull to like get into my winter to-do list, which is actually like kind of it'll pull me into like a spring vibe because it's about clearing, purging, completing projects, getting things out of the house. I've been selling some of my mom's Fluvog like shoe collection for a while now. We're down to single digits with how many pairs I've been selling. And so getting those out of my home because they stay at my house. I list them online, and then when people buy them, I figure out shipping and all that stuff, right? So they've been staying at my house, and I just deal it with it all for her. But that's like boxes of shoes in my house, and then I still have stuff of my dad's. I still have his suits, and I still have um just some random things I was able to get in the aftermath from one of his friends. And um, I decided that this winter is the winter to go through that stuff. So that it'll be, I don't know what the word is. Melancholic? Is that the right word? I don't know. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Anyway, it'll be, no, there's a better word. I just can't think of it right now. Oh, it's like on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me. Yeah, anyway, it's like right there. It'll cathartic. I think cathartic's the word I want to use. It'll be kind of sad, but just like also healing to go through those things and get rid of what I don't need, donate stuff to good causes of his, and perhaps keep a few things and repurpose them. Maybe make a couple little stuffed animals for my sisters and I or something. Like getting creative with some of his things and finding ways to like honor his memory and then parting with the things that I really don't need. Either seeing if any of my family wants it, or just donating it to someone who can use it, who might not be able to afford these things, or whatever that looks like, right? So I've been feeling this like I slipped into this darkness. I was in kind of this incubation um caterpillar cocoon thing and just kind of feeling weird, and now I'm kind of coming out and seeing what that looks like. And then I also think figuratively and kind of like energetically, sometimes when we need to take time to clear out the old to create room in our nervous system. That helps when we have just like a cleaner environment. Also, we can do it inwardly, mentally clearing things, emotionally, energetically, so that our nervous system capacity can expand and we have room for more. Especially when we have big goals for things or desires and things we want to fulfill. Um, but yeah, so we need to sometimes we just feel the need to purge things. So I've started kind of going through those things and working on I've got a quilt. It's actually right behind my laptop here. It's t-shirts. It's going to be a backing, and I think part of my procrastination on that is just it can be a bit of a daunting project to work with t-shirts and stuff. But everything's pressed. I literally just need to lay it out. So my goal is to lay it out today. And yeah, keep going on those projects. I've been knitting up a storm, knitting drink mitts. I have like 18. This is the first time ever that I've actually had drink mitts like ready to sell. And the biggest reason for that is my mom and I did a couple craft shows in the fall, so I had to have some stock. That helped kind of drive that motivation to finish some projects. So I have this big bin of yarn. I think I've talked about this before, but one of the ways I'm purging, yeah, I could just get rid of it, and maybe I will get rid of some of my yarn, but I just I've got my fabric pretty organized in like bags of fabric that looks good together, so that could be just a project, a quilt to make or whatever. And then I've got this big bin of yarn. So what I started last winter or kind of this past year was starting to um really create and then doing these markets so that I can sell some of the things, get some of the money back for the what I've spent on the fabric and all this yarn. So I've been creating drink mitts. I'm gonna make some slippers and stuff too, but just finding ways to bring creativity into purging as well, right? It takes longer than just like donating a bunch of stuff, but it gives me the opportunity to spend time creating and have that outlet because that is very important in my life is having I have lots of hobbies, so making time for those things, even if it's only a few minutes. Maybe it's in the evening, I'm watching a movie with Eric or some TV or whatever before bed, and I'm just kind of clicking away at my knitting needles, creating something. Doesn't have to be like super focused. I'm not spending like 2 hours a day with my sewing machine or anything like that, but knowing that I want to reduce the amount of things in my home, clear space, physically, energetically, emotionally. How can I do that? So that's part of my setting my vibe for 2025. Is it supporting the like kind of purging and clearing my home and creating a cleaner, tidier, simpler space. I think my word for 2025 is simplify. And that is a word I keep coming back to when I think about like things I want to do. It's like, does this help to um, create this vision that I'm looking at with simplifying things in my life? And furthermore, what I really wanted to get into today, so I'll try and make it a quick point because I tend to get sidetracked and talk about other things, but it's all relevant. Um, when I talk about simplifying, with all these projects that I'm doing to get rid of, I've really been like taking inventory mentally and like physically when I see all the things around me of like, holy shit, I really have collected so much stuff. And reflecting on that, and I think it would be really, really easy to just donate everything because then it's out of the way. But I think part of the learning for me is deciding to keep it for now. I keep having to look at it, but I'm creating things with it. It's allowed me to really reflect, get curious, and just think about how my past choices have brought me to the present. And the present is having way more clutter than I need or now want. A lot of it, I got a ton of Norwex in my closet. Part of that was to do vendor events, which I did one. Maybe I'll do more. It is kind of it's often hard to find a vendor event that doesn't already have a rep that's kind of established, but that's why I do stock sales and such. And I am slowly decreasing my inventory. I put it at a great price so I can get it out of my house and people can enjoy it at a discount. But really, I've been really thinking about like how much shit I have in my house. And uh more than just that, the kind of symbolism around that being why why did I collect so much stuff? And understanding that, like, when did I buy this stuff? Like, what was life like at that time? When I look at my fabric collection, I bought a lot of fabric when, like, I already had some, but I would say I bought a lot of it when I was actually in between jobs. So we moved to Sarnia. I had a job that I was moving here for essentially, and I mean it worked out anyway, because Eric also needed to move to this area for his job. Then I lost my job, so I was actually off for the winter, which is like probably the hardest time of year to be off just because it's like it's cold. You can get a bit of seasonal affective stuff. I was very depressed and in a brand new area where I had no network. I didn't really, I knew very few people. If I had been at home, I could have had a job the next day. I just have a network set up there, right? If I was back in my hometown. So it was a very, like, very dark time, literally and figuratively. And I realize now that I was buying fabric and I did end up, I was going to the weekly quilt day and quilting with people and starting to build a bit of a community and some friendships. But I was also, yeah, just buying things. And I see it now as it was a way to kind of self-soothe. And, as much as we can talk about people drinking or doing drugs, or like there's lots of ways to kind of escape things or to self-soothe and self-medicate. It's more than just taking literal medication. Shopping is one of those things. And now I see the product of a lot of these times. Or I think yeah. So now I'm like, now I have this stuff to deal with because of my past um actions, my past choices. Now, as frustrating as it could be, sometimes to see the clutter, I do understand the function and why I did it. So I'm not like shaming myself. I'm like, ah, I see where you were at that time. It's all good. It's part of being human. Many, if not all of us, have done it in one time or another, or maybe we still do it. Um, but having to kind of deal with, and I say it with like quote, little bunny quotes. I now it brings me, it makes me more mindful of the choices I make now, knowing how it's going to affect my future. So bringing things into my house is like, do I need this? Is this serving a specific function? Or am I just like having a day where I feel like I need to buy myself something? And it's funny because a lot of the times I actually shop when I'm like feeling good, but not always. So another way I can bring an example into this is I've been reading books on my bookshelf. I have so many books I've collected over the years, and many I haven't read. Some of them I've read once. I was collecting Nicholas Sparks books, so I just sent a bag of 10 books off to my bestie so she can read them and pass them along. I got 10 books off my bookshelf. So I've been like reading a lot of these books to read them once, and also DVDs. I have a collection of DVDs. I think I've reduced it by about a third by my collection over the last year. And just being more intentional of like, instead of just watching YouTube videos, if I'm sitting with Eric, it's like, let's watch a movie from my pile. And then at the end, it's like, nah, we're not going to keep this. So I put it in a pile to then take to a store and hopefully resell, get a couple bucks from or whatever. And one thing I want to add is I had kind of left my I have a lot of chick flicks. I love chick flicks. I like left that alone. Like I wasn't even touching that. I was looking more at the action movies and other things. Seasons, I would see like 9 seasons of Grey's Anatomy or whatever, and I'm like, I can get that on Netflix or whatever. So I'm gonna get rid of those physical copies. Also my Sex in the City. So, but last night when I went down to put one of the movies we just watched in the pile to donate or like to get rid of, um, I was thinking like, oh, I'm down to like I don't have many more to watch from like that first bunch that I pulled out a year ago. And so I thought, oh, I'll just look through the collection. Are there any more that I should pull out? And I pulled out a couple chick flicks, and really I'll watch them and then I'll decide, is this actually what I want to keep? But I think when we at least start with the point is, and like the thing you can take away from this if you want to is start with the things that are like most glaringly obvious that you're just like, yeah, I just need to get rid of this, or at least take a closer look at this. And then you can start to refine it after, because then it's like it feels good to be purging all this stuff. I've gotten rid of a ton of books. My bookshelf's looking pretty good. I got a plan for it. I'm just kind of chipping away at it while reading some good books and cataloging them. I use the Goodreads app that way, because part of the what made it hard for me to get rid of the books is like, what if I forget about it and I want to read it again? Put it in the Goodreads app that you've read it, because then you have a whole list of everything you've read, and then you want to go back. You can go back and read the synopsis if you forget what it was about and decide if you want to rent it from the library again or take it out, right? Um, yeah, so that's been kind of my process and just clearing the way, making time for these creative projects that complete things and get them out of my house, reading and watching movies and putting them in a pile to donate. Or there was one that I thought I was going to donate and I really enjoyed watching it. I was like, you know what? This is very nostalgic. I am going to watch this again. I put it back in the pile, but most of the movies go into the getting rid of pile. And yeah, and then at the same time, just because I feel like I'm on the cusp of like winter and spring, I'm still feeling very like need comfort and staying warm and cozy on my off time. Um, honoring that as well. And then when I have some energy, um, doing those spring-like things. And then a lasting thing, especially if you're a woman, we have cycles, right? If you still have a cycle, you're still menstruating, there are certain times of the month where you'll have more or less energy. So if you have a tracker, you'll know that when you are when you are on your cycle and just after, you're going to have the most amount of energy actually just coming off your cycle into those first few days, couple weeks. You're going to have the most energy and then it starts to wane. Take I don't want to say take advantage of that, but kind of. If it serves your intention and where you want to go and it serves your energy, those are the times you can plan some of your life and your actions and what your activities around your energy in your cycle. So that's I'll leave you with that. Yeah, I hope there was something helpful in there. Just bringing you up to speed with my world, what I've been working on. I've got ideas floating around. I feel like um the last time I did a big purge, it did really open doors for me. So I'm in that right now. So I might not be promoting and creating as much in my business, but there's lots of like stuff going on behind the scenes that are creating the space for me to be able to create in different ways. So I hope all everyone's doing well. In terms of other stuff going on in January, um I didn't plan a monthly class this month or soul care hours. I just need to be in what I'm in right now. But I'm excited for the intention setting workshop. So if you're interested in that, that's Wednesday, January 22nd. There will be a replay sent out. So if you can't make it live, but you want to be part of the magic, you can watch it when you're ready. If you have any questions, reach out and we'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.